There you go. We're live. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Daily Whatever Show. I am Lawrence Winterman.
I am Dana Dubois.
Good morning,
Lawrence.
Dana.
Good morning, Lawrence. Um,
How the
in,
heck are you?
Intense morning, I guess. Maybe better. Like, good morning is a standard greeting. Maybe just like, wow, what a morning, huh? Would be a better one. I'm always complaining that I'm tired because West Coast early wake up. But last night I was up late watching the Left Hook on Substack, watch a show as the news broke about a second ICE shooting in Minneapolis. And then I woke up this morning and picked up my phone, as I tend to do first thing, and made the mistake of opening CNN. And I was like, oh my God, I have to talk to Lawrence that you were right. We're in a civil war. Minneapolis looks like a war zone, at least according to the news.
I, yeah. I've been saying for a while that as much as we don't want to admit it, we are in the middle of a second civil war and World War III, to be honest. And uh, it doesn't look like previous wars, and so that is confusing for us.
Yeah.
The World War aspect is definitely an information war and a reality war. The Civil War aspect is has been a cold civil war for a long time over ideology and now reality, and yeah, like it's going hot, and I don't know how we get out of this gracefully at this point. It has been going on for long enough, and the sides are so entrenched that I don't know how we get out of it without more Renee goods.
Right.
More things like we saw yesterday, more crazy
Yeah.
bullshit. The word on the street is that we may be intervening in Iran, and they're waiting until
Yeah.
tomorrow after markets close to do it so it doesn't impact the stock
Of
market.
course, we wouldn't want to. I did check the stock market this morning too, Lawrence. And I was like, oh yeah, not bothered at all.
Right, right. Completely unconcerned. Late stage capitalism rolls along like
Yeah.
normal. What could possibly be wrong? The world is falling apart, but hey, you can still buy your flat screen TV at Costco for $199.
Can you get a flat screen for that low, Lawrence?
Yeah, TVs cost hardly anything these days.
Really, I did not know that. I do want to. The very first text in the chat I saw when I joined, because it takes me a couple minutes to get in there. Mark my words, saying it's not a civil war when only one side is shooting.
I, yeah, I mean, what does it make it then? If only one side is shooting, it's more like a pogrom, right? It's more like a rout. Democrats continue to bring
Yeah.
strongly worded letters to fucking civil war. Like we're fucked. What's the better way to
strongly
put it?
strongly worded letters to a civil war. Yeah, I that's the thing that's so there's so many things that are so upsetting and maddening about this, but the both sidesism that everyone on the wrong side tries to play, that it's like, dude, none of us want this. The people of Minneapolis a week ago were just living their lives.
Right.
And I saw JoJo from Jurors, a quick note on Substack this morning. I just saw a post saying, word on the street is Portland is next.
I mean that right, that not surprising, right? Like they're
Yeah.
going kind of full bore, ready to actually fucking murder people. And so sure, of course Portland is next because, Portland is the hippy dippiest, city in the country at this point and has a reputation. You and I both having been West Coasters in my case for 30 years and you still living there, we know that Portland is
Yeah.
amazing. Uh, best brunch on the planet.
I love Portland. Portland is
Full
still
frontal nudity in the gay strip clubs.
all the important things.
All the good things in life, right? Like if I'm
Right.
going to a strip club, I want to see some peen, for God's sake.
I have not had that experience. I love it for you and for Portland. Fried egg, I'm in love. The best breakfast place I know of with all the musical puns.
The chat is popping off. Best bookstores, yes. Powell's. Best donuts,
Best donuts and
absolutely.
bookstores. Yeah, food in general in Portland is amazing, and it's like Portland feels like my kid sister. Portland is like,
Right.
like Seattle, but younger and cooler still. Like there's
Ted
still
Patchell
a
just said, "Oh, Lawrence knows the Silverado." Indeed, I do, Ted. Indeed, I do. I am quite familiar with the
Silverado.
Silverado. Thank you very much.
Uh, Lawrence,
Let me tell you
I
about the twink who was stripping with an impossible penis.
I want to hear about the impossible penis. We've got Jenn Budd joining us today. We have an incredible guest. But first I need to hear about the twink with the
No, no, no. Jenn Budd is far more important than that story. We should just
Oh,
jump in and bring her in.
let's
I'm
bring Jen
sure that
in.
she's got a million things to say about all of these topics, except possibly maybe the strip club in Portland being full frontal. Hello, Jen.
Good morning, Jen.
Hello.
Welcome.
Good morning, Lawrence and Dana. Oh my goodness, the conversation here.
Right. So maybe we
You
should have
didn't know what
warned
you
you.
were in for, did you?
That's okay. I'm a member of Legitimate I'm used to it. So
Yes,
yeah.
excellent.
Oh
Well,
my
me
God.
too. Welcome. Dana is our ally for sure. Um,
Good.
Yeah.
yeah, it
My
is a
kids
safe
call me
space here. We can
queer
talk about
coded.
whatever the fuck we want.
Yeah. Not actually queer, but queer coded. I don't know what that means, but that's what my teens are say about me. Anyways, Jen, I uh as the person who drives most of the booking on the Daily Whatever show, I have never been tagged so many times in such a short period of time by people saying, you have to bring Jenn Budd on the show.
Oh, really?
You are having a moment on
I
Substack.
am.
And until a few
Yeah.
days ago, I didn't know who you were. Um, Sad to say, but thank you to everyone in this chat who tagged me. I've gone back, I've read some of your stories. I'm so like you are having a moment for a very good reason. In fact, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself? Because I was about to kind of start gushing about your achievements, but and your kind of origin story. But I bet you could tell it better than I could. Would you like to give a quick intro of who you are and how you came to Substack for the chat?
Sure. So I am a former senior patrol agent from the U.S. Border Patrol. Senior patrol agent is a rank. It's the highest rank that you could get before you go into management. It no longer exists in the Border Patrol, but it was a very coveted rank back in the day. And I joined the Border Patrol after graduating college with an honors degree in criminal law. I was on my way to go to law school to be a civil rights attorney, believe it or not. Always raised to be a liberal and a Democrat, raised in Alabama. But when I graduated from Auburn University, War Eagle, I realized that
Gators here, Jen.
Yeah,
So
yeah, we're both.
oh
just
no.
FYI, Florida Gators
I'm just gonna say the SEC is not what it used to be. I'm
ain't,
just gonna
ain't what it
say
used
that.
to be for sure.
Yeah, Auburn doesn't stand even a hair on a pig's butt chance of winning anything now. So it's like, but I still love them. They're my team. So I had graduated Auburn, and I had realized when I got back home, I had a lot of severe trauma from my home life. My mother was a severe alcoholic and very extremely violently abusive with me in particular.
I'm sorry.
And I think it's because she realized I was probably gay. And then also all the drinking and stuff was a problem too. And I realized I got to get out of here. I don't want to stay in Alabama. I've known I'm a gay woman and this and that. And this thing in the mid 90s, with the crime bill with the Clintons called the Border Patrol was hiring. And back in the day, and it might be the same still, but back in the day, like they weren't hiring college graduates with law degrees to be in like FBI or Secret Service. They were only hiring like people with accounting degrees because that's how they track people, or people with obscure language abilities. And so I joined this Border Patrol organization, which I was told basically it's like the FBI. In Alabama, we weren't talking about any of this. Y'all got to remember, you young people got to remember the internet was just getting started and didn't look anything like this. And so I never even heard of it. I knew there was a border patrol in like Russia to keep people leaving, but I had no idea that there was one here.
Right.
And you know, their motto was honor first and all this other stuff, and so I joined. And in the academy, just like the first female agent, Ernestina Lopez, in 1975, I was raped into the agency. That was my hazing
Oh my
by my
gosh.
by a fellow agent,
Oh my
and
God, I'm
honestly did
so
not
sorry.
understand the systemicness of it. And I had nowhere to go, so I just thought I want to get out to my station and do a good job. And so they tell you the whole time that, you know, you're going to be arresting drug smugglers and sex traffickers and this and that. I want to explain first the difference between the three agencies. ICE, they typically don't have uniforms there. They can go all around the country in search of people with who are immigrants with criminal records.
Okay.
And then CBP is the parent agency to the Border Patrol, but they are two separate agencies. So CBP, Customs and Border Protection, are what we would think of as customs, the guys in blue uniform
Mm-hmm.
at the ports of entry. And then Border Patrol, which is what I was, are the people in green that you see beating the shit out of everybody in your cities. We're the most violent and the most poorly trained. And you know, just like any other job, you think kind of like, I have to learn the system and this and that. And it took me a while, but I knew from the beginning that something was wrong and there was racism and stuff going on. But at the same time, more than half my classmates, more than half the Border Patrol are Latinos.
Right.
And they're all on board with this. And I remember in class saying, how am I supposed to tell if somebody's undocumented or not by looking at them? Because they teach us to racially profile.
Oh,
And I'm like,
shit.
I don't understand. How do I mean, and I turned around and go, half the people in the class behind me look like they could be undocumented and they just get mad. And I'm like, I'm sorry, but I don't understand what you're talking about.
Right, right.
And they were like, you'll just know. And I'm like, okay.
You'll just
Yeah.
know. What was the
You'll
code
just
behind
know.
that?
Right,
Did you
right.
eventually crack what they
Essentially,
meant by that?
when you're I didn't know at the time, but when you're
Yeah.
Border Patrol, you know, you're obviously right on the southern border, at least when you're first initially sent to your stations, are usually right on the southern border. And so you're watching people as they come across. And they basically look either indigenous or they're poor.
Mhm.
Quite frankly, they're very dirty because they've been hiking through Mexico the whole time, and now they've been hiking through the U.S. And I worked
Oh.
up in the mountains in East County, San Diego. I was the only woman there for the first time, and
What time
they
frame
had
is
some
this,
women.
Jen? Sorry, just to kind of ground ourselves in time. Like when are you
Okay,
there in San Diego?
I'm sorry. I was in San Diego from 1995 to 2001, just before 9/11. Thankfully, I left. I don't have any IDF training. So I'm what is known as the old patrol. And then fast forward, I resigned because of the corruption. I resigned. I don't get a pension or anything like that. I did 6 years.
Wow.
That's all I could do before I was like, I'm getting the fuck out of here. And then I went and did cabinetry work and owned a cabinet shop with my wife for many years until I had a massive suicide attempt in 2015 and realized I needed to address my work in the Border Patrol, my own racism and my own prejudice. And it just happened to coincide with all this. And then I wrote a book about it. So
Wow.
that's the gist of it.
Jen, thank you so much for sharing that story and for trusting us enough to be vulnerable and share the kind of horrible pieces of the story there. I'm sorry all of that happened to you, but we're thrilled that you're still here and you're able to speak up and share with people your experience. It's so crucial for us to understand what's going on and to understand kind of the DNA of some of these agencies. So thank you for doing that. It's hard work.
And thank you, Lawrence. You said that so beautifully. And we do the DNA of what's happening is a beautiful way of saying that. I just found the link to your book, Against the Wall, and I'm putting that in the chat for anyone uh, who would like to read it. So check over there. Oh, and it looks like Karen Marie Shelton is ahead and already has the link to your page as well. So go subscribe, go follow. We're all here to elevate each other. And Jen is definitely a voice you all are going to want to be listening to and reading. Whew.
Jen, you wrote in your one of your recent pieces about how the Renee Good murder is really sticking to your bones, right? You're really staying with you and kind of hard to let go of. And I think a lot of people, I'm feeling that way too. But I was wondering if you could kind of talk to us about that and um, how it impacted you personally. And yeah, I guess maybe start there.
That piece, I kept thinking about a killing in 2012 of a U.S. citizen mother as well, a mother of 5 children.
Mm.
Lived here in San Diego. Her name was Valeria Tachkin. And she happened to be at an apartment, and Border Patrol showed up in plain clothes, just like ICE was wearing, meaning civilian clothes, not in uniform, just like what happened with Renee Good. And they did not identify themselves, just like they did not identify themselves with Renee Good. They just have vests that said federal agent, which you can buy on Amazon, quite frankly.
Mm-hmm.
And she was like, I'm getting out of here, because they claimed they had a criminal warrant, just like they always claim they have a criminal warrant or this or that, but they're lying the majority of the time. They did not have any warrant. And then they proceeded to tell her to stop as she was trying to get the hell out of there, because she didn't know who these men with guns were. And she was leaving, and the guy put himself in front of her car. She was parallel parked, so as she backs up and then comes forward very slowly, he puts himself right on the corner, just like this
Yeah.
ICE agent, Jonathan Ross, did, just on the corner, to say, I'm technically in front of the car. Now I have the authority to shoot if you even move. And so that's a tactic that they use. And so I just watched the whole thing unfold, the way he was, just his acting and everything. He was setting her up. He even blocked her car off from being able to leave to the right had she chosen to. And then he puts himself in front of her, so she's technically blocked on either side. Luckily she, yeah, she was trying to get out of there, but
Mhm.
everything I saw, he violated policy every which way. And he's a shooting instructor, so he knows he's violating this policy. And then the cover up afterwards is exactly the same as what happened in the Valeria case, over a decade ago. And we just keep, this is how they work. This is on purpose. This has been going on down here on the U.S. border for generations, even before I
Yeah.
was an agent. So, yeah.
The part in the story where you're detailing um, left hand versus right hand, and the training
Hmm.
of you always leave your dominant hand, which for most people is their right hand, available to
Yeah.
grab the gun, and how he was recording with his right hand in the moment when he shifted to his left hand, and
That's
how,
when he decides, now I've
yes,
decided she's a threat. And he does that when her wife says, go get lunch, big boy. He's offended by her. And that's
Right.
when he shifts. And that's when he's preparing to pull his gun and shoot.
I think I already know the answer to this. I have it in my head. They released, he took a video
Yeah.
intentionally, and then very quickly after all this happened, that video was released.
Yeah.
Why do you think they released it?
Because they think that it shows that the officer was right. They are so inside their own heads, and they
Yeah.
are only playing to their own sycophants. They're not
Yes.
playing to all of the rest of the people. They're just putting it out on Fox News to give them something to talk about. And I think also the reason why they released it is because it clearly shows a rainbow sticker on the back of her car as he walks around, which
Mm-hmm.
tells him that they're lesbians. At the same time, now we know he was a right wing, very conservative Christian. And down
Right.
here on the southern border, people don't know, but there's all these churches that have popped up that cater to these agents, that tell them in the name of Isaiah 6:8 from the Bible that they are doing justice, and they must lay siege to these what they call demonic and unethical and immoral cities, which are blue cities. That's what they're doing. That's what a lot of the agents, not all the agents subscribe to that, but a fair amount of them do, and especially those in charge right now do. Bovino believes
Yes.
in that. Yeah, a lot of the chiefs believe in this.
Excuse me. That
I
was what. Oh, sorry. You go first, Lawrence.
Well, I just hearing that, it horrifies me. It doesn't surprise me, and it makes me. Are these agencies even recoverable? Like, is there a way
No.
out of this? or do they just need to be eliminated?
They need to be eliminated. And that's difficult to do. I think CBP would need to be more of a purge kind of thing. And what we see is the Border Patrol has taken over both CBP at the ports. So now the commissioner and the deputy commissioner of CBP were replaced by our most ruthless chiefs. The head of CBP now is Rodney Scott. He is the chief that is in the documentary of HBO right now that I'm in called Critical Incident, that describes how these teams work and describes how they did it back in 2010. And you see Rodney Scott explaining away everything. Now he's in charge of those teams again. And at the same time, they've made Border Patrol agents in charge of, they've moved the ICE regional district directors and replaced them with Border Patrol agents. That is not a mistake. That is on purpose. That is because we are the most ruthless. And this is why you're seeing the violence increase, not just among the Border Patrol agents, but the ICE agents are now being told, do this, you can do this. And they are literally being told, literally, if they so much as touch you, it's game on. Whatever you feel you need to do, we'll stand behind you. And we see that with Greg Bovino yesterday on Fox News saying that he is very supportive and happy and thinks that that agent did the absolute right thing in killing Renee Good, that he's a hero. That's what he says.
Yeah, it's insanity. And, there was another story that came out recently about, I think it's in SoCal somewhere, about a kid, a 21-year-old protester who was beaten by ICE agents and blinded, and who is losing his left eye because, the way they treated him and kind of beat him, they fractured his skull, they ruptured his eye, and the agent who beat him and did that laughed at him and said, "You're gonna lose that eye, motherfucker," and like the cruelty and ruthlessness that just little story encapsulates, like, made me want to rage vomit. It is so horrifying. And the kid, the 21-year-old kid in question, he's a citizen. He's a native-born U.S. citizen. He was out protesting, exercising his First Amendment rights. And, I can't speak to his character or, what he was doing. But, it's kind of like Renee Good may have been committing a traffic infraction. I don't fucking care. But the punishment for a traffic infraction is not death,
Right.
And the punishment for protesting is not permanent blindness and disfigurement. Like, these are, like, it sounds like they're crazy people who are doing this. Was that your experience, that the people around you were that level of hateful?
Yes. I mean, yes, the agency, unfortunately, even in the 90s, I can recall them hiring people with who were currently under investigation for a variety of crimes, including violent crimes. They cover up for all the agents. I mean, since 2010, Border Patrol itself has killed over 360 people, and not a single person has ever been held accountable. In the 101 years of the agency, not a single agent has ever been held accountable for killing anybody on duty. It just doesn't happen.
Whoa.
We've had the cover-ups for over 101 years. And unfortunately, the people that they hire, I was unusual. I don't think somebody like me after 9/11 could get hired, because after 9/11 they started focusing on people who were right wing, and then they really started catering towards, once Turning Point USA got out, they started catering towards hiring those people and former military. And so the agency is full. They'll hire people with rape in their background. The head of Tucson sectors. He was the chaplain of Tucson sector. We don't have imams or rabbis, only chaplains. The head of that was Dana R. Thornhill.
No, not my name.
I was a man, but
it can be either. But oh my gosh, Dana. Danas are usually cool. I'm sorry on behalf of all Danas.
He was hired. He was almost to 20 years by the time they discovered that he was producing child pornography. But they knew the whole time, because they hired him with knowing that he, when he was 14 years old, sexually assaulted a little girl. So they'll hire them because they know that most people can't get a hold of those juvenile records and stuff. After 9/11, they went through another hiring surge like they're doing right now. And you see that they're hiring very questionable people, and they just give you the answers you need in the academy. They push you through the academies. They shorten the academies, and they're just putting people out there. I read last night that they're sending ICE agents who've not even gone to the shortened academy out there. They just giving them a gun and a badge and just putting them in the cities and stuff. So, and you can imagine the type of people who are seeing what's going on right now and how attracted they are to that. So what we get every time this happens is we have a Border Patrol serial killer. We have agents left and right sexually assaulting. If they're sexually assaulting the female agents as a hazing, then what do you think they're doing to the migrants and stuff? And so in these cities, when people go, aren't they afraid of getting in trouble? Aren't they afraid of accountability? It's like, fuck no, they're not afraid of accountability. It doesn't happen. We just had a BORTAC Border Patrol agent. He's a deputy commander of BORTAC. That is Border Patrol's most elite SWAT team. They have the most training out of any Border Patrol agent. He pled guilty to 2 minor charges, but he actually had like over 14 charges, I think 11 to 14 charges. He had been abusing his daughter and a stepdaughter for 11 years, sexually abusing them. During the trial, he resigned from the Border Patrol, and now he's working for a private contractor for the Border Patrol. So he's doing the same thing. And then finally, the prosecutors in Tucson just said, you know what, let's just plead to like exposure and 1 count. It makes it seem like it's a one-off. The judge sentenced him to lifetime probation. He doesn't have to go to jail. And then he had to pay a fine of $3,000 to one of the victims. And he does not have to register as a sex offender. This is normal. This is normal down here. Even when they do get in trouble and actually go to court, the courts down here make them do like drug and alcohol classes and domestic violence classes for a couple of years. And by then the victims are so worn out and tired that they just don't even show up to court anymore. And that's when they give the agent back his gun and everything and drop all the charges down to nothing and send him back out. We have a bunch of criminals running around. These agencies have more criminals in them than the people they are arresting. And I've proven that a couple times. And since 2018, that's true of the Border Patrol. So this is on purpose.
Right.
And you're right. This is a war. This isn't just immigration policing. This is to overthrow the United States, and the immigration agencies are the lead in this.
You mentioned in your article the NSPM 7 and kind of what that means, how it gives permission for this kind of stuff, and how it targets people like us. Can you, for the folks in the audience who don't kind of know about that yet, could you, if you're comfortable, could you talk about what it means?
So it's a national security presidential memo that was put out by Donald Trump, and it's listed as 7 because they added 7 new definitions of what a domestic terrorist is. I can't name all of them off the top of my head, but it's things like having extreme views on gender. So that's
one.
Did a bit of claw right there.
Right.
Let's keep counting how many we've got. Yeah. That's one.
Yeah. Having extreme views on migration, which means thinking we need an asylum system, and not supporting ICE, not supporting law enforcement in what they're doing, saying that you don't agree with Christian values.
Well, Dana and I are fucked because we were raised Jewish.
Right. Yeah. It goes on and on. And so
there's an anti-capitalism one in there too. I was like, oh, I got all of them. There. I'm, like a bingo.
Yeah. Come on, bingo.
And so what it enables them to do is then come out and say Renee Good was a domestic terrorist because she wouldn't let ICE do whatever the fuck they wanted to do. Oh, and also she's a lesbian. Hello. So they just label her as that. And people are like, well, this is ridiculous. This can't happen and blah, blah, blah. But they don't care what we all think. They're
Right.
just talking to the people who believe in what they believe in. And the whole purpose of that is to criminalize us like they've criminalized the migrants. And that's what I've been harping on for years. But unfortunately, we had to get at least this far before people started to see it. But so many people aren't seeing it. So many people live their lives just streaming stuff, streaming Disney and things like that. They're busy with kids and stuff. I talk to people all the time, even close friends and family. They just don't pay attention. They have no idea what's going on.
Yeah,
Yeah.
same. I mean, that line about like we're in the middle of a civil war and a world war and we don't know it. I've said that before, and there are people who look at me like I'm absolutely batshit insane, and
Mm-hmm.
I am
Most people.
certain that
Yeah.
when the history of this time is written, like God willing, we get through it, that they're going to look back and they'll be like, oh yeah, clearly in the 2020s there was an active, there was a civil war and a world war happening. It was just an information and reality war. The whole thing
Mm-hmm.
we're embroiled in about, like Trump winning the 2020 election and all the Russian disinformation that gets fed to us, like that is a part of the warfare that we are currently struggling through, and dividing Americans against each other and pitting them against each other. And, like you're saying, having Border Patrol be sort of the front guard, the brown shirts of that movement, that's a front in this war that is now going hot in front of our eyes.
Yeah,
It is.
exactly. And go ahead, Dana.
Oh, thank you. I have a day job where I race off to after this podcast, and yesterday we all went out to lunch, like team building, and I just remember sitting at that lunch and being like, I have so many things going on and so much in my head, but no one to talk to. Like everything is just sort of normal. And in my head,
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, we're in downtown Seattle. Like, how long until we look like Minneapolis? How do
Mm-hmm.
you guys not see? And maybe on the inside, they're all freaking out too. And if I just said, "Is anybody scared?" there would have been a a big raise of hands. But yeah, life is just going forward. I have a daughter about to go to college. I wrote a story that went live yesterday about how scared I am of like, how do you launch a child into the world right now? Part of me just feels like she should go into she got into these great schools she really wants to go to. Sure, she can go to the other side of the country and go to
Mm.
college. And the other part of me is like, we're at war. You can't send your kid to the other side of the country alone. That's not safe.
Mm.
And my head is doing battle with each other, but or like the devil and the angel are like, no, she should go. You're being hyperbolic. And the other part of me is like,
Yeah.
uh, absolutely not. You need to
Yeah.
hunker down and keep your people near you to stay safe.
Yeah.
Um, and a question is coming to mind because apparently they're coming to Portland next, according to something I read this morning. It's clear. Actually, there's two questions coming to mind. And I'm going to say them both, and then because otherwise I'll forget them. One is, why did things get so much more extreme in Minneapolis than they were when they were just in Portland, Chicago, LA? What's the difference this time? And then the
Okay.
second one is, what do you do if they come to your city? My normal instinct is like you rush out and protest, but hearing the values of who we're protesting against, this is not the same thing. These are not trained
Right.
people. These are unhinged people. So start with the first one of what's changed in the last like week that's made the Minneapolis one so much more extreme.
What has changed is they have gotten their money from the big beautiful bill, which
Mm-hmm.
is what they were looking for. What
Mm.
has changed is that a lot of the people that they began hiring, even though I believe they're lying about the amount of people that are seeking to be hired, but a lot of those people have made it through the academies and now are out there in the field. What has changed is orders have gone out to increase the violence. Um, and what has changed is they're getting and prepping for the midterms.
Yeah.
So a lot of these cities that I see them going to, I know we say they're just going to blue cities. Yesterday they were tearing apart Donna, Texas, Edinburgh, Texas,
Oh,
Brownsville, Texas. They are now gathering in Tucson, Arizona right now to hit Tucson.
oh no! I've
Although
heard
Tucson
Tucson is
is a liberal
amazing.
city. Yeah.
Yeah,
And also they're here in San Diego. I know people think of it as a liberal city because it's California. It's actually quite conservative.
Right.
Right now, we
Military.
have a Democrat for a mayor, but he is actually more to the right than he is to the left. And they are sending Coast Guard to monitor our beaches and stuff in civilian clothing. So they're using the military against, on the southern border, they're using the military against us. But they're also now bringing ICE and stuff. So that is what has changed. Is this is an acceleration. This was always an acceleration, but the biggest increase in that was that memo that came out that labeled us. So the memo came out on September 25th of last year.
Yes.
And within 2 weeks, we saw Marymar Martinez shot 5 times in Chicago. And now we see, so they have been, that is the green light. Go ahead, boys. That's what they're saying. We've now labeled them domestic terrorists. So legally, you could do whatever you want to them. Once they're labeled a terrorist, all law is just kind of moot at that point. They can do whatever they want. And to your second question, what do you do if they come to your city? You should be organizing right now, whether they are there or they are not. Your schools, instead of also doing shooter drills, you need to be doing ICE drills. You need to have people around the schools and perimeters. So what they're doing, what they did in Texas yesterday is they waited for high schools to get out and then they hit high schools. They're doing that to hurt people. They're trying to take their children. And that's to tell their parents to shut their fucking mouths. That's what they're doing. And so you need to have, just like the cops would do, you need to have people, all roads that lead to your schools, you need to have people on the outside of those roads that can then have enough time to notify the teachers, hey, here they coming down the street, not just 1 block away, but a couple blocks away. And you need to do it in code, because if you sit there and try and get on there, it's not to be a chat line, it's to be an alert line. Okay. You need to set these things up. God. You need to practice mutual assistance with your neighbors who are Latino or who are Black that might be targeted. If they feel they can't come out of their houses, you need to be going shopping for them. You need to be going to pick up their children at school if they're too afraid to do that. But in every way that you can possibly think to resist, you need to resist. If all you could do is sit in your house because you're not mobile or you're senior, well, you could be a lookout. The younger people get in the streets and protest. Other people need to organize. And then you need to put pressure on your local and state police. They need to defund their contracts with ICE and all these immigration agencies. But at the same time, you need to understand that they likely have received grants from DHS over the years.
Right.
That's the reason why your little podunk sheriff's towns and stuff look like they're outfitted for Fallujah fighting and this and that. They've been getting money, and they've been getting free training from DHS and Border Patrol and stuff. Right. So this is why we see,
right, like a lot of
equipment,
kind of
and this is why we
military equipment. Yeah.
And I think, and I've been saying this a lot because, like, you know how this is, you have to repeat yourself. And I think why we're seeing our mayors and our governors threaten and say, we're going to call in National Guard. We're going to have our police officers arrest this person for use of force violations and this and that, which they absolutely have the right to do. But they're not doing it because I think that they're afraid that their police are not going to do what they tell them to do and are going to side with the Border Patrol and ICE.
Yeah.
I think that's what's going on.
I'm in Fort Wayne, Indiana, and my sister and brother-in-law are both in the education system, and we're just notified this week that ICE is in town, and they're targeting the schools. And so, even here in Blood Red, Indiana, we've got ICE agents in a city that's kind of known for having a Latino population, a big Latino population, and they're starting work here. So,
yeah. There's a question in the chat from Donna asking, Jen, do we go to Minneapolis and help or stay out, or do we go to DC and protest? Thoughts?
Well, I think if you have ties to Minneapolis, maybe that might be good. I think it's better to stay in your communities and prepare. I think if you're not worried about your community, maybe you live in an ultra rich conservative right wing, you live in Salt Lake City or something like that,
Right.
high up on a hill, and you want to do something, then yeah, go to Washington D.C. and protest. In any way that you can think to protest, all forms of protest are valid right now. All forms of protest, but I want to say, realize they are looking for excuses to kill, to shoot, to beat, and to maim. And that's what they love to do. As you see in their private texts, they actually bet each other every night on who's going to get what we call the most bodies, because we don't consider them human beings. They call them bodies. And they will be betting each other as to who gets the most apprehensions and who beat the most ass, quite honestly.
Earlier you referenced Isaiah 6:8, and I've seen reference to this before. I think I saw it in the story that you wrote about Christian nationalism and how it plays into all this, which I want to talk about next. But being raised Jewish and being profoundly agnostic, I didn't know the verse, and so I want to read it. I just Googled it. It says, "Then I heard the voice of the Lord saying, 'Whom shall I send, and who will go for us?' And I said, 'Here I am, send me.'" This verse is used by individuals volunteering for missions, including those related to border security, to express their willingness to serve where needed through interpretations, though interpretations vary on its application to contemporary political issues like border enforcement. That's the AI Overview's opinion on it. That's
correct.
That's how that verse is associated with Border Patrol. So,
but the interesting thing about that, Dana, is it goes further, and Isaiah says to the Lord, "I'm not worthy," because he has sinned in the past. And then a cherub comes down and cleanses his sins with a hot coal. And then he says, "Okay, Lord, now I'm cleansed. Now I can serve you." So what that says to Border Patrol agents, and ICE agents and all these immigration agents, is because a lot of them are committing crimes themselves. We have a huge problem in the Border Patrol alone with pedophilia and rape. It's just out crazy, and drug smuggling and all sorts. They just arrested an agent last year for not actually working when he was supposed to be working, and instead he was taking children and sex trafficking them. So this is really bad. And they see themselves in Donald Trump. He is a fallen man. He commits lots of sins, but he is working for the Lord. And this is how they justify what they're doing and who they're doing it to. And Isaiah says to the Lord, "Okay, after we go in, how do we do this?" He goes, "You have to not look with your eyes, not listen with your ears, and not pay attention to not look at what you're doing. You're going to have to do some awful stuff." And then Isaiah says, "How long do I have to do this?" And God says, "You're going to tear it all down. And then when you're done, you're going to go back in and kill and tear it all down some more." That's how this has to be. And so this is what they're doing. They believe that they are tearing apart these cities because they are evil and filled with sinners. And you can get rid of all the LGBTQ and transgender and anybody who disagrees with them. They don't care that they are criminals themselves. They see that as part of their mission, like Donald Trump.
Right. This is their redemption path. This is their confession.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That makes me want to vomit till I die.
Yeah.
I don't like
That's what they teach them in these churches down here. And Charlie Kirk used to come and talk to these churches and all those people. Yeah.
Of course he did. And, I've seen on social media, I've seen pictures of Renee Good with captions under it like, "I've been disrespected by this expression 1,000 times." Like as if that justified murdering her.
Yeah.
And it is like, it's always been tied together. It's always like misogyny, homophobia, transphobia, and Christian nationalism. I'm not even being articulate because I'm so sick right now. I just shared a link to this really wonderful piece that you wrote called "Border Patrol, ICE, and Christian Nationalism." agents who believe they are fighting for God. We're talking around this because I know we've already done the quote, but can you talk more about kind of how far back this goes and the like how Christian nationalism is part of well, the civil war we're seeing around us?
Well, after 9/11, they made a concerted effort to start hiring people like this. The people. So let's remember that 9/11 occurred because the old immigration system, Immigration and Naturalization Service, which I worked under, INS, which consisted of Border Patrol, and back then ICE was called Criminal Investigators. It was usually ex-old Border Patrol agents who then were doing ICE's job now. And then you had customs and immigration inspectors. And so those are the people that allowed the terrorists to come into this country. They had actual real documents, but they used fake information. So the investigation and the vetting they did of these people was poor. Then there was accountability after that. And they allowed these same people who then a year later after 9/11 actually issued, this is how bad INS was and Border Patrol and all them back in the day. Actually, a year after 9/11, they reissued visa extensions for the terrorists. They mailed it to their old addresses. That's how bad it was. No accountability whatsoever. And then they take these same heads of these agencies and have them create DHS, have them create the ICE, CBP, Border Patrol stays the same. And then they also created the oversight agencies. So they then filled the oversight agencies with ex-Border Patrol and customs agents, so that then they're investigating themselves and nobody knows about it. And it was after 9/11 that we first developed our first chaplains. George W. Bush said, oh, Border Patrol needs chaplains. No imams, no rabbis, just chaplains. And that's when I was like, oh, I got to get the hell out of here. There's other reasons why I left. But that's when we really see the push in the immigration agencies for more Christian agents and the pushing out of anybody who's deemed to be a Democrat or a liberal. There's a border writer by the name of Todd Miller, and he wrote a book called Border Patrol Nation. And in that, he talks about an agent, Mexican-American agent, who was saying he was proud of his Mexican heritage, and he understood why people came to the country. They fired him. They called him a socialist and fired him. So that's who is in the Border Patrol. And the head of CBP right now, Rodney Scott, the former Border Patrol agent who's now the commissioner of CBP, he believes all this stuff. He goes from church to church in San Diego and all these churches. They're all honorable. They're all serving God. They're all serving this nation and America first, and they believe in all of this stuff.
Jenn, you talked about, the motivation to write your book was that you kind of went through, it sounds like, some deconstruction and personal sort of discovery, reconciliation, right? Figuring out sort of what you had been programmed with. Could you talk a little bit about what that, if you're comfortable, I don't want to push you, but maybe what that was like for you and kind of, where you saw some of that programming maybe being reinforced in your training in Border Patrol?
So when I was in the funny farm, I spent a week in ICU after my attempt. That's why sometimes you see my hands are messed up and stuff, because of my suicide attempt.
I'm so sorry.
I decided, no, I needed it. I decided that I needed to start talking about my time in the Border Patrol. What I had always done in my childhood with my trauma and the violence of my childhood was just kind of throw it over my back and move on. And things obviously caught up to me, right? So I had this ability to do what I, once going to therapy and understanding, disassociate. And just like a robot, and that's, I see a lot of this in these agents nowadays. And they, one of the most interesting things about the immigration enforcement agencies is the ICBP Border Patrol is they don't do psychological evaluations. Your basic, most Podunk Sheriff's Department will do a psychological evaluation, and they do not do that. The Border Patrol alone has the highest suicide rate of any agency. And then in the 90s, Bill Clinton had passed what's called deterrence policies. They were closing who could come across the border, making it more difficult, then making more legal people here undocumented by saying that their minor crimes were now deportable and all this other stuff. And that increased the deaths out there. So what you see are agents who see death constantly. They see children constantly. And what you have to do in the agency, if you can't handle it, you can't say you're having mental health problems. You can't say any of that. They'll kick you out. They'll put you on the rubber gun squad. So you just have to ingest it. You just have to swallow it. And, they put themselves out there as honor first is the motto and all this other stuff. But the truth is none of it is. And once you get out there and you realize, like, this guy's corrupt, this guy sitting next to me is a rapist, this guy, blah, 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 blah. A lot of the agents get into the corruption. They just become absolutely numb. Even the people who got in for perhaps the right reasons, like me, but were naive and misinformed. And you either leave or you stay and you participate in that brutality, which is rewarded, as you see with this Agent Ross. He's going to be rewarded. He's going to be seen as a hero. He'll probably be given a medal and all this other stuff, and he will rise through the ranks. And he will be lauded as a great agent, as Bovino just said. And so they just keep reinstilling that. And if you can't deal with it, agents like me, they say, oh, you couldn't hack it. And it's like, I hacked it for 6 years. Right. I threw it over my shoulder for 6 years. And then I walked away, and it took me quite a bit longer to find my morality and my humanity again. But you have to lose your humanity to see that. And if you don't lose your humanity, like my best friend I wrote about in the book, then you end up drug addicted and an alcoholic to deal with it. Some of the agents deal with it with sexual abuse. They take their anger out on the migrants. If they're raping the female agents, they're raping the migrants and the children. And they have all these systems to cover it up, and you're told this is what is honorable. So you either have to participate in it or you have to look the other way.
You're so eloquent as you're explaining this trauma. And what's coming up, Lawrence, you may know where I'm going with this, is I think from your timelines that you are likely Gen X as we are. And
yes,
we have this theory that we're coming into our creative and professional power now, later in life, but that also we were taught to shove it down, toss it over our shoulders. But that the ones of us who are on the right side of history are doing the work. We're getting the care we need, and we are trying to heal the generational trauma and be kind of that pivot point for ourselves and also for our culture. And it's it's so remarkable that you are here and talking about this, because we know you're doing this at personal risk. We know we're doing it at personal risk every morning, but we are enemies of the state, or domestic terrorists now. I guess we can just print T-shirts, Lawrence, just say domestic terrorists, for speaking out. So I just wanted to say thank you. Thank you for coming on our show. Thank you for coming on all these shows, for writing, for I think we've all known it's bad, but I had no idea the depths of it until this morning.
Oh, it's really bad.
The chat is just filled with people like I'm physically feeling sick, and I just want you all to know you're not alone. We are too. So thanks for making us all sick, Jen. I'm being a little tongue
anytime.
Right, but like, it's so important to know this. And what I'm thinking is, like, if ICE does come to our cities, which seems likely for a good portion of us, how do you have advice for how to de-escalate? I'm going to also say, sorry, I talk a lot. When I watched Renee Good and I watched the video, I'm like, I would have done exactly what she did. She tried to comfort him and say, I don't hate you. She tried to back away. There was no way I would have gotten out of that car.
Yeah.
I don't think most any person, especially a woman, would have. How do we de-escalate when we can't understand the person on the other side who's about to do us harm? Do you have advice?
Unfortunately, I'm going to be blunt and honest with you. More of us are going to die. As you saw with Renee Good, they were not escalating. The reason why she hit the gas is because they were physically attacking her from the window.
Right.
And because he started to draw his weapon and she saw that. That's when she hit the gas to get away from him. He caused that shooting on purpose. And it's a known policy within ICE, Border Patrol, CBP. It's a DHS policy not to stand close to vehicles, not to get in front of vehicles, and also to not shoot at vehicles, because then when they die or become incapacitated, like we saw in Miss Good's case, their foot hits the accelerator and then they go off, and then it really is a 4,000-pound bullet and can injure other people. So there's no way for us as citizens to de-escalate. There's no way for us as citizens to reason with these thugs. And I say that as a former senior patrol agent. These are thugs. These are not law enforcement officers who are there to protect us as citizens of the United States. They are there to cause chaos and to overthrow our communities. This is not in search of violent criminal immigrants. It's not, because you can see they're not getting violent criminal immigrants. This is to cause chaos. This is to make Americans be afraid. This is to say Donald Trump is king, and that is what this is. And I know that is hard to accept. It was hard for me to accept. It's why it took me so long to get through all my trauma and to get through the American exceptionalism. But this is really what's happening. And once you accept it, you see it very clearly. Yeah. So there are going to be more of us that get killed. There are going to be more of us that get arrested by them and put in their stinky little shithole detention facilities for 3 days. That is their goal, because they're practicing deterrence on American citizens. So they're going to treat you like an animal. They're going to treat you like shit. And they want you to get out and say, oh, don't go and protest ICE, because this is what's going to happen to you. And you need to say, fuck that shit.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. You know, the kind of clear-eyed consequence of realizing that we are in a civil war, that we are in a bigger war, like the Civil War and the American Revolution, is none of those ended without massive bloodshed, right? Like I don't know how we get out of this without massive bloodshed. So we're really close to right. I think you're right.
Because Democrats are not coming forward. Enough Democrats, I'm sorry, are not coming forward about it. Joaquin Castro did last night, but the Democrats have a new policy reform plan for ICE and Border Patrol and CBP, and in it, they offer giving them more money. No, absolutely not.
Yeah, that's crazy. So we're close to the end of time, Jen. I know we've talked really heavy things most of this hour. I'm curious what you're doing to keep your soul intact now. Like, what are you doing to find joy and like help get through all of this crazy bullshit at the moment?
I try and keep very strict practices. I have 2 little chihuahuas. Sometimes one's sitting with me on the desk, but she's not here right now. I make sure I get their WALKs in. I don't want to say it because they'll get all excited. And I try make sure I eat healthy. And I try, and honestly, talking about this openly and educating people is what I'm doing. I'm traveling next week for a little bit, so I won't be able to do as many podcasts because I'm doing live talks and stuff like that.
Amazing.
And then I also have a book that is in editing right now. It's a graphic novel. And then I'm starting another book right now. So and these are books that people, my agent and my publisher, have asked me to write. So we're trying to get them out before the next election, before the midterms, so that they're going to be very plain so people can understand really what's going on. Not thick, not highly technical kind of thing. And so I just keep working. This is my life. This is what I live for. Doing this work has saved my life, and I've been doing it now for 10 years. So, and I've grown through it, and this is what I've dedicated my life to, quite honestly. And I'm doing Duolingo to try and better my Spanish.
Nice.
Que
Nice.
bueno.
We have a silly question that we kind of close out on. I know it feels incongruous, kind of where we've been all hour to asking this question, but Dana, do you want to ask Jen? You're Gen X, so we can't not ask you this question,
Yes.
Jen.
We are going to ask this, and before I do, I will also say, please come back on the show. Yes. But
absolutely.
When your books come out, please let us help you. Like, as much as we can elevate your voice, we're here, and consider us your private press, your hype man and woman.
Yeah, my hype people.
We'll be your hype people for sure.
Exactly. Here is the question. Total gear shift. What is the most Gen X song of all time?
Oh, jeez.
We ask everyone this when they make their first appearance on the show at the end. There are no wrong answers.
Yeah, no wrong answers.
That is so hard, because I got to be honest with you. In the 80s, I really did not like 80s music. I like it now.
Right.
Because it reminds me of when I was young. I was listening to Janis Joplin. I have a Janis Joplin tattoo on my arm and things like that. I really was into blues.
I have a Janis Joplin story to tell you at some point, Jen.
Okay.
I don't know your Janis Joplin story. You have to tell me too.
I've obviously into punk and stuff, but the most Gen X, I think probably the most popular stuff as far as sales and stuff and being repeated on MTV constantly over and over again would be Michael Jackson's kind of stuff, but I can't stand Michael Jackson. I can't stand him as a person. I appreciate his music, and I would say Thriller probably was one of the biggest ones. But I was more of an NXS fan, Suicidal Tendencies.
Nice. Okay.
NXS.
I was into that, the Smithereens. I like the Smithereens a lot. Yeah,
These
so I was more
kind
of, I had a mohawk back in the day, still kind of have a mohawk now, but yeah, so I like a lot of the punk rock and stuff from that time. I was a really big Dead Milkmen fan. And I still have a Dead Milkmen fan t-shirt. So I would say my favorite 80s song was probably Bitchin' Camaro, to be honest.
Yes. Oh my God.
Oh my God. You should win a prize for being the first person to say Bitchin' Camaro, and it is such a great choice.
I ran over my neighbor.
Oh my God. Bitchin' Camaro.
Bitchin' Camaro.
I needed that. Oh, I'm going to listen to that on my way into work. Or
honestly, I'll have to go listen to it right now.
Yeah. They had some fun stuff back in the day. And then I really miss NXS. When I hear them now, I'm like, oh my God.
Oh my God. But what was your favorite? What is your favorite NXS record?
I honestly, I couldn't even tell you. I have not listened to them in so long. And I've been listening right now. I listen to a lot of jazz. You ask what I do. I honestly, every afternoon, I pour myself a little glass of port. I get high because I have nerve damage in my hands and then PTSD. And I do jigsaw puzzles and I listen to jazz.
Oh my gosh. Okay. You don't need to explain it. I'm in Seattle. It's a norm here. It's just medicine. NXS Shabu Shaba hit 12-year-old Dana very hard. That first record, and Michael Hutchence and the video for The One Thing, where they're at that huge feast with all the supermodels in Australia feeding each other. I don't know if you remember that video, but it made a very big impression.
Huge Prince fan. I mean, Prince was like, when I first saw those two women kiss on the keyboard, I was like,
Wendy and Lisa.
Right.
Is the water warm?
Wait, what?
Yes, Lisa.
I was like, wait, what? I can actually do that? Not just think about it?
Yeah.
Oh my God. I'm loving
the side. It was like, oh no.
The quote that's going around of like, no one knew the revolution was going to begin in Minneapolis except for Prince.
Yeah. And the fact that he died in an elevator, and the song.
Prince a higher floor. Yeah.
And
all right. We asked this question. We didn't start this way, but we now ask this question because it does elevate the mood.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, we're gonna now go listen to Prince and In Excess and Bitchin' Camaro
Yeah, for
and
sure.
maybe Punk Rock Girl too, just to throw that in
Punk Rock
because
Girl, yeah.
you
That was
can't
their
not
most
smile.
famous one.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you can't not smile when you hear Punk Rock Girl.
yeah,
It's just too funny.
yeah.
Jen, this
Jen,
has been
thank you
so
so
great.
much for being here.
Thank you,
Oh,
thank you,
thank you
thank
for
you.
having me. I really appreciate it.
Of course, thanks to the chat for all of your feedback. Oh my gosh, you've crashed my browser twice, everyone. Congratulations.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
with all the feedback, I've had to restart the chat to see what's going on. Thank you to Karen Marie Sheldon for being an amazing moderator. And we will be back tomorrow for Fucked Up Friday, our weekly news recap with Ahmed Baba. My God, what a week. I don't even like picking one, the most fucked up news story of the week.
Yeah,
It's just going to be
too hard.
too hard.
Yeah, I want to advise people don't ingest too much of it. Be aware of what's going on, but don't and then spend your time organizing, okay? Think of locally, go locally. If we all organize locally, there's way more of us than there are of them. So,
Really great advice. Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks again, Jen. Thanks everybody for being here.
Thank
We'll
you
see you again
all.
tomorrow. Love you, mean it. Bye.
Love you, mean
Bye.
it.
bye.
Bye.
Bye. Bye. Bye.
Bye.
Mwah.